Welcome back to the Rise with Anita podcast, or welcome if you're new here. If you're new here, I am so excited to have you. And just for a little bit of background, this is a space where ambition meets embodiment, where soul meets strategy, because you cannot have one without the other, and where we don't just talk about transformation, we learn how to actually live it. And if you're tuning into this for the first time, I really want you to know I truly believe that the conversations that are meant to find us always have a way of finding us at the right time. So today's conversation is a little different. It's going to be for the woman who's feeling a little disconnected. And it's not because she's lost or because she doesn't know what she wants. It's because somewhere along the way, she stopped listening to herself. Maybe life has gotten a little louder. Maybe responsibilities are a little heavier. You're in a heavy season. Maybe you're dealing with a lot of expectations. And slowly, the expectations have become more important than your own voice, than your inner knowing. Or maybe you've been stuck in survival mode for so long that you don't even remember what it feels like to be you again. So if that's you, I want this episode to feel like a deep exhale, because I don't believe you lost yourself. I think you lost access to a part of yourself, and there's a difference. And so what we're going to do today is help you remember who you've always been. And so I want to walk through what I call a reset. 3 ways I come back to myself every single time I notice I'm starting to drift. Not because they're complicated, but because resetting is actually a practice. Because you don't actually think your way home, you feel into it. But before we begin, I would like us to arrive together. So if you're able to do so and you're not driving or operating heavy machinery, please place both feet on the ground. Allow your shoulders to soften. Release any tension you might have, especially if it's in the jaw. And we're going to take a slow, deep inhale through the nose for 4. We're going to hold and gently exhale through your mouth for 6. Again, one more time, breathing in deeply through the nose for 4. Holding and releasing through the mouth for 6. And as you settle, I'd love for you to just ask yourself, where have I been abandoning myself lately? And instead of judging the answer, I want you to get curious. I want you to observe it. And from that place, we begin. So over the last few years, I've realized that every breakthrough I've ever had, whether that's been a conversation I've had, a client I've worked with, a guest who sat across from me on this podcast even, there's something that we always come back to. And it's the same 3 things each time: awareness, regulation, and embodiment. And at the core, we're talking identity here. But we often think that transformation just begins with massive action. And that's great. But it doesn't. We need action, but it doesn't start from the action. It begins with an awareness. But awareness alone is not enough to make a shift. And so after we create the awareness and we observe what's going on. We need to create safety in the body so we actually know how to choose differently when certain situations come up. And finally, we begin embodying. This is the shift of the identity. We act like the woman we know we are becoming. So if you've been wondering, well, how do I even get back to myself? This is where I begin. So step one, awareness. This is going to take some honesty here. Coming home always begins with being honest. If you don't like something, you have to be honest about why I don't like it, why it doesn't feel good to have this situation in my life. And one thing I want to pause for a second is you're not going to jump immediately into fix it mode. You want the awareness of what am I actually feeling? What don't I actually like? What am I pretending isn't bothering me, but it is? Oh, is there a conversation you're avoiding? Or is there an action you're avoiding? Is there a decision that you already know needs to be made, but you've been putting it off? Because here's something I realized. Your nervous system cannot regulate around a reality you're refusing to acknowledge. So if you have something that you're avoiding, and I know I've been guilty of this myself, but if you have something you're avoiding, if it's a relationship that you're uncomfortable with, or maybe it's your finances, the longer you're avoiding, the more you're prolonging the result in the shift. And here's the thing, peace isn't about, oh, I'm just going to pretend, fake it till I make it away. No, it comes from, I'm going to be radically honest. I'm going to actually admit the truth. And sometimes the truth can simply be, you know what? I am exhausted. You know what? I don't like this way I'm being treated. Maybe I'm a little burnt out. Maybe I've outgrown this relationship or this job. Sometimes the truth might even be, I'm afraid. I'm grieving. I don't know what my next step is. I'm in a little bit of uncertainty. I don't actually want this anymore. But whatever it is, whatever is the aligned truth for you, you need to be radically honest about, can I tell myself the truth first? That is your first step. Before you have any conversations with anyone else, before you take any action, it's, can I even be honest with myself about how I'm feeling, what I'm avoiding, what no longer feels aligned? Because the awareness always comes before the change. So number 2 is regulating. We need to start returning to the body. And if you live in Western society, we have this tendency to just bypass, right? Once you acknowledge your truth, we can't exactly just jump into solve it mode. Your brain will want you to go there, but we have to look at, can we feel the discomfort? Actually feel it, not put a Band-Aid on it. You see so often people are in their minds and they're thinking about it. They're thinking about the change that they need to make, planning, overanalyzing, trying to logic your way through it. But the body, it knows long before the mind catches up. It knows if something's off. It knows if a relationship's off. So instead of asking, what should I do? I want you to start asking, well, what does my body ask for right now? Is it asking for you to take it out and do some movement? Is it asking for some stillness? Is it asking for yourself to slow down enough to rest? And I want to take a moment here on the resting point because if you are uncomfortable allowing yourself to rest, if there's a twinge of guilt when you rest, firstly, I want you to have compassion for that because that is something so taught in our society. But secondly, I need you to really take a moment to acknowledge that rest is how you actually go further faster. I'm not talking about going out on vacation, but maybe you need a nap. Maybe you need to just slow down for an hour or two. Give yourself that time. And if it is a vacation, then take the vacation. But do not feel guilty for giving yourself space and time. Maybe you need laughter or tears. Oftentimes, we put off our feelings so much that it gets built up. And that's where tools like breathwork, for example, can start to bring out emotions that are not being felt actively. I usually, in the HER method, call this delayed processing. We need to create the space so that anything that we didn't have the ability to release, we release. And one thing I've learned is the body is not an obstacle. It's our messenger. But oftentimes we're just bypassing it. When you start to create this safety inside of yourself, you're not as reactive. I'm not saying you're never reactive. Let's get real here, especially those of you who live in the United States. I'm not saying the goal is to be never reactive. That's an idea. That is the ultimate goal. Definitely a spiritual test, but we all have our moments. But the key is, can I begin responding in life? When someone cuts me off, can I just allow it to not trigger me into wanting to honk at them? Can I just observe it? Or if I get a text message, can I pause before I respond and actually integrate with, well, what do I actually want to say? How do I want this person to feel? How do I want to feel in this relationship? Can you be a little less reactive in life? And that's how we begin our regulation. And lastly, embodiment, which is all tied to identity. And the thing is, you don't have to do something grand. You can just choose one small act of alignment now. This is where so many people overcomplicate healing and just mindset work and working on yourself in general. They think, oh, I need to mass change my entire life. And that's great to know that you want to have shift, whether that's in your finances, in your body, in your health, in your relationships. But here's the thing, I don't ever encourage you to rush into a 360 change in multiple areas of your life. Why? Because it's going to be a lot for your nervous system to catch up with. And if we're thinking long-term change, you want to slowly introduce. And as you're introducing a certain change, you want to be regulating simultaneously. So here's the thing. You need one aligned action to be that next version. Maybe that's one boundary, a single honest conversation, an application. one walk, adding some white space while you're at it, one no where it should be, one yes where it feels aligned, one decision you've been putting off. Embodiment isn't about becoming someone else overnight. It's about saying and proving to your own self, not to others, over and over again. I can trust the woman I'm becoming. She shows up for herself. And every aligned choice you make shows the act of, I believe in you. We've got this. Eventually, the future you arrives. And I'll give you an example. So many people follow me on Instagram. If you're not on there, I would love to have you. It's Arise with Anita. But I used to hesitate to come on and show my fitness journey. And funny enough, I used to have a whole dedicated Instagram page to my fitness journey. But over the years, I just stopped that. You gain some weight back, and then you're finding yourself coming down this evolving lesson. And I did exactly what I'm telling you guys to do. So I had gained some weight. And for me, there's been a lot of life change. And what I did is, okay, can I get myself back into the gym? Not 10 days a week. 7 days, excuse me. Can I get myself back twice a week? It sounded doable. 2 45-minute workouts. Can I do that? I didn't overhaul my diet. I didn't immediately cut my sugars out. It was, can I just commit to working out? From there, can I work out 4 days a week? What would 6 days feel like? And I'm not doing this from an obsessive place. I take it one day at a time. Do I feel rested today? Do I feel like I can power through a workout today? And now we're up to 7. After I got that down for a few weeks, then I added in, can I be stricter with how I'm eating? Can I make decisions based on whether or not they feel aligned? Whether or not they make me feel better? Are they expanding me? Are they limiting me? Can I create more awareness of what I'm putting into my body? But I didn't go in overhauling the entire thing all at once. I did it step by step. So it's the same thing I'm telling you here. Make one choice and take that single action and compound it over time. Don't rush to change your life, because that's what makes change less sustainable. Because here's the thing, the future version of yourself stops feeling someone you're chasing, because she eventually just becomes who you are. You become the version of you that's consistent. You become the version of you that's showing up for herself. You become the version of you that's calmer, more grounded. So if you've been wondering how to come back to yourself, I hope that you're able to remember this. We don't just think our way home. We feel into it. We practice it. We tell ourselves the truth. Then we create enough safety in the body to actually say that truth, to sit in the awareness of that truth. And finally, we choose one action that aligns with the version of us that we're becoming. So it's awareness, regulation, embodiment over and over on repeat. Because coming home isn't about one big moment. It's hundreds of little small ones that stack up. And every single one of those remind you you're not actually lost. You're simply waiting to come back to yourself. So if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear which of these 3 practices you're leaning into this week. come find me on Instagram and send me a message. I genuinely love hearing from you. And if you know someone who's been feeling a little disconnected, sometimes one conversation is all it takes to remind someone that they were never broken. They just forgot to find themselves at home. So thank you as always for spending this time with me today. Until the next conversation, I'll see you in the next episode.